Hello and welcome to our reflections on Monday. It's a very special day, not just because I'm doing the reflection. When I saw what the lectionary passage was, I didn't think that it was particularly special at all. But let me explain why it's a special day. We've been ploughing our way through the book of Micah. We finished that in our daily readings, and we're about to embark on a great ploughing our way through Ephesians, which comes next. But in between today, there's an odd bit of the New Testament, sort of plucked out of nowhere, as it were. And it's Galatians 4, verses 4 to 7. And it includes this verse. I wonder if you can imagine as you listen to it why this has been chosen for today. Sounds as if it's about Christmas, really. Let me read it. There we go. When the time had fully come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under law, to redeem those under the law, that we might receive the full rights of being God's children. Does sound Christmassy, doesn't it? It's to do with Mary. The passage is a complicated bit of Galatians where Paul is talking about the rights that we have because we've been adopted into God's family. So it's all about the Roman law, about adoption and stuff like that. But we don't need to worry about that because we're looking at Mary. Because today is, in the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox churches, celebrated as the Feast of the Assumption of Mary. Now, we don't use assumption very much in the sense in which it is in that title. When we say assumption, we assume something, and that's our assumption. But assumption is a technical theological word for being taken up to heaven. So it's the day when we celebrate that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was taken up to heaven. Okay, fair enough. Presumably when she died, but actually the feast of the Assumption of Mary is interpreted as being the one instance where a human being, Mary, was taken up to heaven before she died. So different from Jesus, her son, who had to die but was then taken up to heaven after he'd risen from the dead. Strange feast, strange idea, really. Not one that's high on the lists of Methodist feast days, I'm sure. It's sort of celebrated as a saint's day because this is like her heavenly birthday, I suppose, the day when she came into heaven. It's one of the big Roman Catholic holy days of obligation where people are supposed to not go to work and to fast and to go to Mass. What we're going to make of that? Well, I want us to think a little bit about what it means to receive a call and to respond to it. Now, obviously, as a Methodist minister, that's the sort of vocabulary that is often used about the particular role that I and others have within the church. But I'd much rather us think about it in a generalised sense of us being called to follow Jesus and about us responding appropriately, just as I personally believe Mary was called in a particular way, just as we're called in particular ways according to the context and at the right time, as Galatians 4 verse 4 says. She's called in the Eastern Orthodox Church Theotokos, which means God-bearer. literally the one who actually gives birth to God, but also in the sense of bearing the Christ child before his birth. And I wonder if we can think of ways in which that might relate to ourselves. Obviously, not in that unique sense that she then gave birth to Jesus, but in us carrying Jesus around with us. I think one of my favourite names for a boy, we never had a boy, so we never had to test this out, was Christopher, because it means taking Christ around with us, carrying Christ. That's what it literally means. I wonder if you can latch onto that and think today, in the midst of whatever you're doing, how you have or will taken Jesus round with you. Have you brought Jesus into the situations that you've faced or will be facing today? What does it mean for you to carry him, to be the one who enables Christ to be present in a particular situation? That way, you see, I think we've got something to celebrate alongside celebrating Mary, because it's about us receiving a call and responding, and us in our own way being the ones who bear Christ for the world.